Kai sat comfortably on the floor with a towel draped around his neck, absorbing the drops of water that fell from his freshly washed hair as Queen reached for the comb on the end table. She leaned forward with her swollen belly, giving her some resistance, and began to comb through Kai's thick locks. While braiding his hair, she called out for her younger boys to join them in the living room. "Boys, come in here, and I will tell you all a story." Without hesitation, Kenzo and Kane rushed over and plopped down on the floor in front of their big brother. She knew 7-year-old Kai and 6-year-old Kenzo would be listening, but Kane was only 3 and would probably fall asleep. All the same, she began to share a tale of hope and horror. "You are all incredibly special. As you grow, you will begin to evolve. Everyone develops at different times, but you will have all your special gifts by your 16th birthday. No matter how big or small your gift is, it is important. I want to tell you about the prophecy of the 4 kings. When the world was new, humans started with a blank slate and endless opportunities, but it was never easy. All things achieved required work. Communities developed and flourished all over the land. At the center of a lush community, a baby girl was born under the light of the moons in her family home. Following the lead of her parents, Akila was publicly demanding, selfish, and unkind. This behavior was expected of her, because they believed themselves to be dominant to those around them. Although she recognized the flaw in the situation, she refrained from showing any kindness, as she knew it would result in being chastised. Despite having every luxury her family could offer, she always felt like something was missing. One evening, she was shown what the family truly did to obtain their power. As she rode through the ruins of a desolate village, a carriage and guards protected the young lady. Akela was told that this land now belonged to her. There were no bodies in sight, but the blood-soaked soil was not so easily hidden. No one explicitly told her how she came to acquire this land, but deep down, she knew the truth. As the carriage left the village, she saw movement in the distance, a figure watching from behind the trunk of a large oak tree. She avoided eye contact, not wanting to draw attention to him. If she did, her guards would surely kill him. The seasons changed when she returned to the village to review the progress. It had been primed and polished to resemble the village of her parents. There was no evidence of the village that once stood there. As she walked through, people diligently worked on building the structures. Akila asked for a moment to herself. Reluctantly, her escorts obliged, keeping her in their sights and never straying too far. She stood by the tree, where she initially saw the figure during her first visit, and looked out onto the village. Akila imagined the events that took place and what that person might have witnessed. As the thoughts flooded her mind, a single tear rolled down her cheek. She was approached by a disheveled-looking young man. The young man wore dingy, unkempt clothing and offered a wooden owl carving in exchange for food. Akila sneered at the offer and turned him away as she always did, but he warned her that things didn't need to sparkle to be useful. She turned him away again. He placed the carving on the ground beside her and walked away. She bent down and picked up the figure from the grass as she watched him fade into the distance. As soon as Akela touched the owl, a scene from what appeared to be the night she was born was played before her eyes. She looked up at 2 faces full of joy as they smiled back at her. The people seemed familiar, but she did not know who they were or where she had seen them. They did not resemble the people she knew as her parents. The image was so real that she thought she could reach out and touch their faces. Suddenly, the location of the image changed to showing people frantically running while flames blazed in the background. When the vision ended, she looked around, and the young man was gone. She had seen it all. Now she knew why something always felt wrong. The night of her birth, her home was attacked, leaving her orphaned. She grew up as the daughter of the person who had laid waste to her village. The guards found her while she was trying to process her thoughts, and they returned to her parents' village. Time passed, and she did not say anything about what she had seen, but the owl figure sat by her bedside. She only saw the vision once. Akila decided to remain silent, uncertain if what she had witnessed was real. And given her parents' cruel history, she was unsure of how her parents would respond if she inquired. When they returned to the new village, the guards had captured 3 people, stating they had trespassed on her land. Akela found the statement ironic, as this was not her land either. The village was to be an extension of the parents' kingdom, which meant this crime would be punishable by death. As Akela looked at the people who were captured, She immediately recognized the young man who had given her the carving. She ordered the guard to let them all go and to escort them to the dining hall. They were astonished, but would not dare argue with her. Once they had their fill, she presented them with a sack of food for the journey. Upon departure, she pulled the young man aside to apologize for how she behaved before. He slowly bowed his head and turned to walk away. She had so many questions, but he kept walking as she tried to ask. Thrown by his lack of communication, Akela fell silent. He crossed behind the big tree, but as he emerged from the other side, his rugged appearance melted away to reveal a man who now reflected her own prestige. She tried to apologize again, but it was too late. He knew that her environment had warped her way of thinking, so much so that her natural response of kindness was only activated when she believed he had value to her. He gazed at her with a fixed, unwavering stare and spoke with intensity. I have wandered this land for many years, observing how the power that is meant to be shared is often seized for the benefit of one. Each individual is granted autonomy and all necessities, yet human frailty renders them feeble. This world is fragile, and on this path, humans will soon push it to its limits. But I have faith in its recovery. In due time, I will send my powerful Quaternian sons to harness my power. Although they are formidable individually, they can wield godly power when united. I dispatch these kings to unite my children and overthrow tyrants. Together, they will create a better world. He dissipated into golden rays of light. She stared at the place where he once stood and reflected on her life and the words of the stranger. From that moment, Akela's life was forever changed. The next time she returned to her village, she assumed responsibility and created something new, a place to honor the lives that were taken there and her lost village. She denounced her parents' way of life and spread the word of the stranger like water over a thirsty land. Akela accepted the risk that they might one day come and try to wipe out the land again. But she had faith that they would not prosper. When she grew older, she was revisited by the young gentleman. While her face had drastically changed with age, there was no such sign of aging on his face. He did not speak, but nodded in absolute approval. As the prophecy was shared and interpreted, the Quaternian sons became known as the Four Kings. It was widely believed the four kings were brothers. Families desired to have 4 boys in the early days following the prophecy. People would even choose their mates based on the potential to produce boys. Insecure and fear-filled leaders known as Asiatisnakis hunted the boys. Powerful Asiatisnakis have searched for these kings to prevent them from reaching their full potential and realizing the power they hold. Aces feared the power of the 4 kings so much that all boys were in danger. Terror plagued families all over the world. As the tides turned, families that were once desperate for boys began to treat them like a plague and pass down the fear. If anyone were to get word of a family with 4 boys, they were under attack. It did not matter if they were the chosen ones or not. Boys have been kidnapped or killed because of their potential. Aces would not even let them get a chance to find out. With fear planted firmly in everyone's heart, Aces discovered an opportunity to use all types of children to their advantage. Soon, no one was safe. Kenzo sat on the floor to her left and looked up at Queen with panic in his big copper eyes. Why would they do that? Aces want all power, and the 4 kings threaten that power. They aim to divide and use people for their personal gain. Over the years, the Aces have changed and have different objectives, but they all have one thing in common. They do not want the 4 kings to unite. The prophecy has been reduced to an old tale throughout the years, but those in power still fear the possibility. Kane came over, curled up on the couch next to Queen, and laid his head on her lap. As he closed his eyes and started drifting off, Kai said, "So, if you have another boy, what will happen? People will always be aiming for all of you. Just having boys has put us in some wild situations over the years. You will learn more about yourself and your destiny as you grow into your gifts. There is no need to worry. It is too early to know if you will have a little brother or sister. Either way, I will protect you." Kai and Kenzo looked at each other. Then Kai peered up at Queen's face from the corner of his eye, looking for any sign of deception or worry. She appeared stoic. Her deep mahogany face did not show the despair she felt inside. As she finished the last braid, she said, "As you grow and learn, You will have obstacles that will try to tear you apart. People will try to sway you, take advantage of you, and make you doubt your destiny. Never stop trying to do your best, and I will always be proud of you no matter what that destiny may be.